It's 3:31 p.m. I call to order the meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Birmingham City Council. Good afternoon, councilors and our visiting audience. At this time, councilors, hopefully you've had an opportunity to read the minutes of the June 15th meeting. I would like to entertain a motion for approval and second for those minutes.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. The minutes of June 15th, 2022 are approved. Today, councilors, we have 4 items that are before us for discussion under new business and old business. And I'd like to begin by we are welcoming Ms. Attorney Caroline Douglas, who is the director of our Land Bank Authority, and she's here this afternoon to give us an overview and the process of the Land Bank Authority. And we welcome Ms. Douglas. I don't think she's been before since she has been appointed in this position, so thank you very much.
You are so welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Good afternoon. I am Caroline Douglas, and I serve as the Executive Director for the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. My exposure to the Birmingham Land Bank did not start as an Executive Director, but it did begin with the work that I was doing in the City Attorney's Office right here in Birmingham, and I had an opportunity to work with our attorneys who were setting it up. Having that vantage point of helping set up the land bank, also helping to create the process by which these property titles are cleared, gives me a really good perspective. So today it's an opportunity for me as well to know how best we can communicate the information that we have and actually gauge how much we know about our land bank. I did send over a presentation. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to get started. So when you think about what is a land bank, most oftentimes if you survey 1 or 2 people, you're going to get different answers. In our office, our team has even received phone calls from sincere people who wonder if we are loaning any funds for property development because we are called a land bank. Others sometimes wonder if we actually own every single tax delinquent property in the city of Birmingham, and no, we don't. So no, we do not loan any funds. No, we do not own every tax delinquent property, but the state legislature has seen it fit to give this land bank the opportunity and the power to access properties that are tax delinquent at least 3 years. So when you look at what is a land bank, there are just a few things that I want to draw your attention to. Land banks are public entities. We have unique powers, but we are focused on converting problem properties back into productive use. When I say problem properties, that is really vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties. These are those properties that will devalue a neighborhood and that will drain local resources. But these have the most potential because we have the ability to not only acquire them, but convey them and turn them into something beautiful, an asset to that neighborhood. And what we want to do is either immediately convey that property or temporarily hold it. Never really meant for us to hold property for long periods of time without a long-term plan. So your Birmingham Land Bank was created by the City of Birmingham to acquire tax delinquent properties or surplus properties of the local government, or even other properties within our city limits for the public purpose of returning land that's not generating any revenue, not generating any tax, but also and not even effective. When I say effective, I mean it's not contributing to your neighboring schools. There's nothing that it's bringing in that it's outputting for the residents. We want to take those properties and provide housing, stabilize neighborhoods, and even provide new opportunity for commercial and economic development. All right, so we move on to our governance. You may or may not know that we have a governing board. We have 7 members on our board of directors that each serve a 4-year term. We have a public meeting. It's our board meeting on the first Thursday of every single month. We also have policies and procedures and bylaws. These documents will govern the acquisition of property, conveyance of property, and also will govern the duties and activities of the board of directors. So we do all of this and we run 4 specific programs. We have a lot lease program, which I'll tell you a bit about. It's a 2-year lease that enables a citizen or an organization to use the property and also to maintain the property. So you've got the right to use it and the responsibility to maintain it. The quiet title and the immediate acquisition programs are for ownership. So these two programs are almost identical. The difference will be that the quiet title properties still have to go through a court process to quiet those titles, but the immediate acquisition properties are ready to go and be developed. That last one, strategic acquisition, we work with the city's departments of community development. We can also work with the city's Department of IEO on city developments within the city. We are one of many tools in a toolbox that you can use to transform a neighborhood, whether that is residential or commercial. So let's now talk about who is eligible. Some people want to know, how do I apply for a land bank property, or who's eligible to do that, and what kind of properties can we acquire? So I want to say first that individuals, governmental entities, for-profit, nonprofit can all apply. But the land bank does reserve the full and complete discretion to decline applications or any proposed agreements for any of these following reasons: failure to perform in prior transactions, ownership of property that's currently tax delinquent, ownership of property with any unremediated violations. Those can even include weed liens of the city that haven't been satisfied or demolition liens that haven't been satisfied, and insufficient experience and capacity to perform property maintenance. 3 years tax delinquency is what we require. If that property hasn't been tax delinquent for at least 3 years, it's not eligible. But there are over 10,000 within the city that are eligible for our program. So the one question that I did receive is about our process. What is our process? This is the complete process from start to finish. Generally, our application is online. We don't have a paper application, but an individual, a developer who's interested in our properties can go to our website, that's birminghamlandbank.org, and submit an online application. The staff will review it, then they will submit it to the board for approval. And depending if we have the tax deed or not, we'll request the tax deed, or if we already have it, we can then move forward to inform that applicant that we've got the tax deed. We do have an orientation now. We have started doing that this year, where we do take our buyers and those who are leasing properties through an orientation process. This way, they know exactly what is required of them, they understand what the program entails, and we give them some helpful information and tips. They will also execute a contract, and they will pay their earnest money if they are purchasing, or their fee if they are leasing. The rest of that chart, that everything that's in white and not yellow, that's solely for the home ownership. So those are steps that from beginning to end, if you want to purchase the property to own, that's every step you'll go through. If you're just wanting to lease it, all of those in yellow will apply, but of course, compliance will apply to all of them. Meaning that once that contract is signed, that transaction is closed, we want to make sure you're developing it the way you said you would, or maintaining the property the way you said you would. The next few slides talk specifically about our lot lease program and our quiet title and immediate acquisition programs. A way that you can really just remember which is which: if we're speaking of a vacant lot, no structure, and it is located in the same neighborhood as the person who lives and owns the house, or next door, to the right, to the left, behind, or in front, this is the lot lease program. You might wonder, why would anybody lease a vacant lot? What's the benefit of doing that? Well, it gives you the right to use it. It also gives you the responsibility to maintain it. But at the end of that lease term, you have the option to purchase it. So during your lease term, you are the one who gets that option at the very end. Now, you've got a couple other options. The person can say, you know what, this was great, too much work, don't want it. That's fine. But then, if you say, I really do want to own this, then you can go into our ownership program. But it gives an individual or even a church 24 months to save up the cost for the quiet title program. So the cost to lease a lot is $50, a one-time administrative fee of $50 per lot, and there's a limit of having 3 lots in any one 24-month term. So this is something that I think that churches, if they are interested, they're open, they're operating, they can truly enhance and beautify their neighborhoods. But also, a lot of them have development plans. They want to provide housing. They want to build, facilities to be a resource to the community. Churches should absolutely look into the lot lease program. All right, the next one is the ownership programs. We have 2. The cost for these programs start at $5,000. That covers the legal fees that we incur to clear the property's title. That will be $5,000 plus closing costs. Now, this program is awesome. I'll show you in the next slide why it's so powerful. And Counselor Clark knows all too well that I love this program. Now, what this is about here is it not only gives you ownership, but it gives you the opportunity to develop. We don't want you just to own it without a plan. We want you to have a plan to redevelop it. So that timeline is 12 months. And we do monitor it every 90 days to see where that project is in the process. So this applicant can be an individual, an organization, and they will also apply online. This property has to be vacant. If there's a structure on it and there's someone living in it, it is not eligible. But if there's a structure on it and it's vacant, it is eligible for our program. And many times we know that applicants are applying to either lease the property or to resell it. Or some want to occupy it. And those who want to occupy it for themselves also have a good chance of obtaining one of these properties. So this next slide is really illustrative of how this quiet title program works. So this is my imaginary street. It's called Green Acres. On 1605 Green Acres, there is a home that has been tax delinquent for at least 10 years. You've got delinquent property taxes, you've got a company that did work on the roof, you have a company that put a mortgage on it. The balance of all of that all adds up to $108,000. When we take this property through the quiet title process, if no one appears to redeem, and I want to make clear, the land bank does not take property from anyone. What we do is we apply for that tax deed, we bring it to the courthouse, we summons everyone who could have an interest. So if, for example, if Counselor Clark requested a property and we assign it to our attorney and it's been approved by the board, that attorney will look at that property's title. The property's title is much like a report card. If I want to know how well you did in school, I'm going to want to look at your transcript. That title is a property's transcript. They're going to take a look and see, well, what kind of activities have been going on? Who could have an interest? We're going to notify everyone who has an interest. If no one appears to redeem, no one who says, I'm willing to pay it, no one who says, I have the finances, I can do it, we will ask the court to vest title in the land bank. That allows us to reconvey it. After that quiet title process, there is zero owed for the lien on the roof. There is zero owed for that mortgage that hasn't been paid. There is zero owed for those property taxes that went delinquent. That is the power that the state legislature has given the land bank. So we are one of many tools in your toolbox on how you can transform your districts and the city as a whole. Just a few milestones that our land bank has been able to achieve. We're the first and only land bank in the state that successfully takes a property from tax deed and tax delinquency to full ownership with insurable title. That title insurance is available at closing. A purchaser can choose to buy it or choose to not buy it. We've also established a process which we just talked about, where we summons everyone who could have an interest in the property, prior owners, any heirs, any lien holder, any mortgagee, to the court to know who's going to take control of this property. And if no one is willing to do it, the land bank will do it. And reconvey that to an applicant who has a plan and who has the funds to fully carry that plan through. Then lastly, our group of attorneys are experienced, they're knowledgeable, and they perform these expedited quiet title suits at a fixed rate. We truly are privileged to provide this type of service to the city of Birmingham. But I think that opportunities like this enable me to know what does the public know about the land bank, and it also helps me to gauge how we can improve that process. So I hope that I've given you a bit more than what you've known already about the land bank. And if you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this information. I know for me it was very valuable. I'm going to open it up now and ask counselors if they have any questions regarding the presentation. And I'll start with you, Counselor Clark.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I should know everything because I sat on her board for a while.
Wonderful.
I had to get on this board, but I wasn't able to learn everything. I do think it's one of the most important new tools we have to address what's become a crisis in terms of all of the vacant properties that aren't producing, that not only aren't producing, but they're creating a maintenance burden on the city that is too big for us to really service to any level, any meaningful level. But we still spend a lot of money on it. But I wanted to just ask you about the land bank's disposition priorities, because I feel like there are some definite criteria that you all evaluate when an applicant applies for a lot, like whether they're going to own, the owner is going to be owner occupied, it's a speculative investment. And then I know that there are strategic partners like developers like Habitat or Build Up or other entities who could really possibly take them by the dozens or half dozen and put them back in production. So what is the disposition priority, or and so that's one question.
Okay.
The disposition priority. Also, can city employees, and you gave an example of me acquiring for property. So I've never been clear on that. If you could also address that. Because I know some jurisdictions use it as a perk, as an incentive for employees of that municipality. So could you just comment on those first?
Sure. Good questions. I'll answer your last question first. Yes, city employees are eligible to take advantage of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority's programs. We have had several move through the program, and although there's no incentive, like no monetary reduction, the program is open and available to them.
Yeah, the incentives I've seen is like kind of a first look or something like that, or some sort of preference or first look, but not monetary that I've seen in my very limited research.
Right. And in terms of your first question, what are our disposition priorities? We have a list of them in our policies, which are available on our website. I did not bring them all with me, but some of those are catalytic projects, so that does get some priority. Owner-occupied projects, those do get some priority. And I think it really depends on your plan and how well it is developed. So, for example, if I did not live in the community and I wanted to purchase a home in the community to rent it or lease it, but you live in the community or you have ties to it and you want to purchase it to occupy it, your application may get more consideration than mine. But at the end of the day, which one is better developed, which one has more feasibility, who was able to really carry it through?
Okay. And in your example about the churches and the side lots or lot lease, I think is the program. I just imagined, a church that's parking constrained, getting a lot in front of it and back of it and on each side, and all of a sudden there's these parking lots in this residential neighborhood. And I know that you all don't have the resources to really do extensive like plan reviews and that sort of, I don't think you do, have that sort of planning expertise to really, and would it be fair to say, no, you can't have a parking lot all surrounding your church versus, but how do you deal with people who want to lease a lot and do something like that might not be well received by the residents in the neighborhood?
That's a good question. I, in partnership with PEP and their zoning team, have come to put together a form that we would use internally to share with PEP and zoning what the plans for this property owner would be. So this way we would know, is that something that they can do? Is it something they should do? Are there any further steps they need to take? Before this, the land bank has always been a small team. I lead a group of about 5 of us, and that includes me. And we do have room to grow. But until we do grow, we have established partnerships with PEP and zoning to take a little more control over the proposed plans. So if in that scenario, if a church applied and said they wanted to use all 4 lots for a parking lot, we would submit that to zoning and say, is this something they can do? What we also do is require each buyer to take that ownership and make sure they are operating and going forward with their development according to the city's codes and ordinances. So that obligation and responsibility is always on the buyer, but we're taking a further step to be ahead of it this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, they may just want to, maintain it, make it, keep it clean and green while it's not being used. I have two other, I have one other question about like where do you want to, how do you want to evolve and grow the land bank, and like what would be your wish list? Say if there was something the city council, as individual offices or collectively could do to support the land bank. What is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's almost like when my mom would ask me, what do you want for Christmas? And I didn't know what to tell her because I hadn't really thought about it. But this I have thought about. And let me say this. When I came aboard with the land bank, my full and total focus was to determine where are we? Why are we here? Where do we need to go? And why aren't we there yet? So it was really an opportunity for me to take a look at what are we doing? How are we doing it? How can we make it better? And I'm pleased to say in the year and a half that I've been there, I've revised contracts that the board has reviewed and agreed to. We have strengthened a lot of our processes and really started up to ramp up our compliance, because a part of what I've noticed is we do have a lot of interest in the land bank, but our interest is getting those developments complete. And it's always easier to start a project than it is to finish one. And so that is something that we are focused on. But my top three would be funding, consistent yearly funding. My second one would be upgrading our technology and our software, as well as our website. I know I bunched that all together, but it's all technology, so I just threw it all in one bucket. And then my last one is growing our staff. Right now, I had a slide in there about our staff, and I took it out, but I'm glad to share it. I serve as the executive director. I have an administrator who is second to me. Her name is Miss Joanne Burrell. She's been with the Land Bank a while, and she has really seen it from the inside out. But under her, we have 2 analysts, a space for 2, but we only have 1, so we're hiring that second analyst, an admin assistant, a clerk, 1 inspector. With over 400 properties that we've sold and inspecting all of those properties, I definitely need another inspector. The good news is my work with community development has been a walk. We're walking together with this, and we are sharing a lot of our initiatives because the work that we do complements each other. So if I had my list, it would be consistent yearly funding, it would be technology upgrades, including our website, which we're in the process of looking at what that's going to be like, and then lastly would be to build our team out so we can truly have a more equipped team.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's not specific on the funding and what the technology upgrades cost, but, or the inspector, but, I mean, I guess we can dig deeper later. I wanted to just make a comment about just my observations. We have you as this title clearing machine that's not meant to hold land long term, so it would really help if we had, developers who wanted to, really capable, high-capacity developers. And I'm going to use Habitat for an example, but Habitat houses don't fit in every neighborhood. They fit well in some neighborhoods, but they have, high capacity to rehab and deliver new housing. We had a lot of community development corporations that came about in the 80s that are no longer existing. So on the demand side, we just don't have a lot of demand for this land in our neighborhoods, and they're not designed to be a long-term holder of the land. So the other tool that is being thought about, which I don't know where it is a community land trust that could hold the land longer term and then work with, have community residents involved in the governance and do more of the local area planning. Because when we start thinking about, I'm going to use the word your board chair uses, democratization, I think about some of the land uses I've seen. Like there's a case in Tuxedo where someone got a land bank property and very creatively put a structure on it. And, they didn't pull any permits. I don't know.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
It's like sitting on stilts, and I think it's going to be a barber shop. But anyway, that scares me. Like 23, however many vacant lots there are, tax delinquent, going into the hands of people who may not follow the rules to develop it and may not have the sophistication to develop it properly. And so I would like to see us explore something like a community land trust so that even as counselors, we can buy land in our district, through the land bank that can be donated to the land trust to hold it in trust until the market is ripe for development, because we need to assemble enough land to do something meaningful to revitalize these areas. But when I think of neighborhoods, and I probably shouldn't call names, but when I think of neighborhoods like Tuxedo, there's a lot of vacant land, but there's not a lot of demand for it right now. But if it could be assembled, held in trust, and it's enough of it to do something that's going to turn the market, but that's not really appropriate for them to do because they're the title clearing machine and not the long-term holder and planning for revitalization machine. So anyway, I know we have a Fuse Fellow in community development who's been looking at the community land trust. I think it's a necessary companion for what you're building, and because we just don't have the community development corporations to really work locally and make those block by block revitalization happen. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. So I've met a few times with the Fuse Fellow who's working on the community land trust. Really excited about the possibility of setting that up. And so we're just continuing our meetings about that and hope to play a big part there. The organizations who have partnered with the land bank and have more than a handful of properties have really either forged ahead with their developments or are working out some funding issues or maybe rethinking their plan. But altogether, I have to say I'm pleased to know that we've got Habitat and Build Up and Navigate and TDC, who has a great plan, just needs to get it off the board. But I think that altogether, they notice the benefit of the land bank and the power and the capacity that we have to provide these properties. They just need to have that plan and that funding in place to do so. There's a program that the board has put together that I'm assisting them in carrying out. It's called the Accelerated Homeownership Program. Nothing that we have rolled out, but just to give you a preview, that is one that would take builders who have that capacity to build, community lenders who are willing to come to the table, and families and individuals who want to build their home and either come back to the city of Birmingham or just move within the city. That program will utilize all of those parties, community lenders, builders, and also the land bank, to put together a program where we could be a one-stop. You can come to us and purchase your property for less than you would on the market, as long as it is tax delinquent, and have a mechanism where you can build it and you can have it funded. Of course, you'd have to be credit ready, but that's still in the works. But I see where you're going with it, and I do think that if we can attract more able developers who are capable of going from start to finish, we can really see a turnaround.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet on this.
Are you done?
Thank you. Yes.
Councilor Quinn, do you have a question?
Sure. So I'd just say in general, it would be very helpful for us to have some metrics. So like pretty much any data that you can devise or put together would help us to, have additional insight as to, how the land bank's doing and what direction things are trending. I'd definitely be very interested in seeing that. So one of the things that I've heard over the years in discussion about the land bank is about the lack of capability to take on debt. As I understand it, the state statute that authorized the land bank to be formed didn't grant bonding capacity. And So my question is that actually a deficiency? Would that something be more germane to a land trust? Any thoughts?
I'd have to go back to look at that just to be sure. Can you tell me what the context was in terms of?
Yeah, well, the idea is that the land bank can, obviously is set up to clear title on property, but if you had, $50 million at your disposal for the land bank to actually develop those properties yourself, then, things might happen a lot more quickly. If you could deliver a finished product to the market, so bonding capacity would help, in that regard. Integral to having bonding capacity or taking on debt is being able to pay that debt back. So that's a consideration, but, I guess in your Christmas wish list, is that something that you would potentially include, or is that something more germane to something like a land trust?
I have floated the idea of the land bank redeveloping properties by itself, working with the contractor and then making them available. I think that it's an idea that the board that I have now would be willing to consider. However, that funding, like we just said, is limited. What can we do with the funding that we have? But I think the end goal, if the end goal is to get a property rehabbed or built and made available to the public so as to generate funding for the land bank, there could be more than one way to do that. But to answer your specific question about bonding, I'd have to make sure and go back to that statute. Yeah.
Okay.
Just really thank you for coming.
Yeah,
because I know I requested this a couple of months, and we've had a lot going on. I think it's still important. I hate the other two new counselors aren't here, but I think it's important for us to understand how the land bank works and these programs work, because I know a lot of my constituents call and ask about the lot lease program and everything else. So thank you. I guess really my one question is, with the increase in the budget for the land bank, how will this help you all?
We're putting that directly into operations. So land acquisitions and our operations is where that's going. I'm really pleased at the additional funding, because when I look at the funding just historically, it's always been there. We are grateful for the support of the city of Birmingham, and it's been at different levels. And the greatest, funding we saw was in 2019, 2020, where over $1 million was put into the land bank. So that shows a lot of great not only interest, but also investment in the land bank. So I'm thinking about something. So yes, consistent funding would be great. I have so many things running.
I guess how many more properties will you be able to address with the increase in funding?
So with property clearance at $5,000 per property plus closing costs, and the $500,000 that we were given and appropriated, that gives us about, if I'm doing my math right, someone count, is that 500 or 5,000? Someone have a calculator, couldn't tell you. But really what we thrive on is demand. And let me tell you where I think the greatest opportunity for us is going to be when we are working and walking together with community development, and they have developers who are coming and interested. What I have found is they will route them to us, and then we have the opportunity to supplement their current plan. So I think doing it that way, where the funding to do this isn't coming from us per se, but it is coming from HUD-backed funding, it is the perfect storm.
Okay. I would like to see for the next budget, kind of like your wish list with numbers. We're usually a part of those budget hearings when they happen around March, but I think that'll be very helpful. And Chiefs, if I can request this, if she could just give us the numbers and see how we can help you in the budget next year.
That'd be great.
And thank you, because TDC, Navigate, and Build Up are all in District 6. And I've seen the beauty they've done with vacant lots, especially the big one across from, we call it the White Store by Washington K through 8, to take an area that was an illegal dumping ground and have 3 smart homes. So thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, of course. And I forgot Woodlawn United. Don't want to leave them out, but they've got a great number of properties in Woodlawn. Yeah.
Thank you. Is that it, Counselor? Have any other questions?
No, just great presentation. Thank you for, even though I've sat here on this seat for 5 years, it's still nice to get a refresher and see how the land bank has actually progressed over that 5 years, because it has progressed. And so I think that you guys are doing a great job. Obviously, the more funding you have, the more impacts you can have. But one comment, I guess, just based on, walking hand in hand with community and development, I know that there has been some success stories that my colleague just mentioned, but we'd love to see, and I know there's a price tag to it, but we would love to see that, kind of throughout the city.
Sure.
Even on the east side.
Sure.
So anyway,
absolutely.
but thank you for your time and thank you for your
Yes.
presentation. It was really nice.
You're welcome. And to Counselor, was it Counselor O'Quinn that you said you wanted some data in terms of what's available? What I'd like to do is give all of you an idea of what's available in your district, both residential and commercial, because our programs apply to both. Lot lease would not apply to commercial or any property with a structure, but the other 2 ownership programs, commercial or residential, would work. We'll break that list down into neighborhoods within your district, tell you how many are in each neighborhood. That way you can prioritize your focus according to your constituents' needs.
Just like to clarify, so that would be useful also, but if you have key performance indicators for the land bank as an entity, like
Sure.
what are the metrics that you're looking at to evaluate how the land bank is performing? Those are the types of things that I'm also interested in seeing.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Counselor Clark, I think you had.
I just wanted to make a comment and ask you about legislative improvements. I know that when the land bank first launched, I feel like a lot had to be perfected for it to work, not just legislatively but also operationally, getting the courts and the title companies, everybody aligned to actually support the quiet title machine that was trying to be productive. And it took a long time, and it was very frustrating for the community and probably for y'all, but I think just before I rolled off the board, we had, we got some legislation passed that took the time down from 5 years to 3 years of tax delinquency, but when the land bank could would become land bank eligible. And I think the last day of the session, a new bill was introduced. Could you just kind of high level tell us what that's going to do for the land bank if that legislation is reworked and introduced in this upcoming session? Council Woods and we were kind of briefed on it.
I remember,
by Kim and the Centers for Community Progress people when they were in town. But anyway, could you just kind of tell us, all of us, what that would do?
I would want an opportunity to do that in another forum, and I'll tell you why. There's a number of improvements that proposed legislation will make that may generate even more conversation. But also, I think to give each of you a summary of what that bill looks like so that you will know what it is and will be able to communicate that would be useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be fine.
And Councilor Pro Tem.
I do think, I just thought about this, if, I don't know, when we have our town halls, maybe neighborhood meetings, 5 minutes, or help us to train us so we can educate the neighborhood officers and tell people. A lot of times, like I said, we'll get calls and people don't understand about the process, or sometimes people get angry, not understanding it. So I kind of would like to see that. But I want to correct myself, Council Williams. So those housing nonprofits aren't part of the land bank. Those are just individuals that just so happen to get land bank lots and to be given to, what I'm saying? It's not them showing favor to this bill, because they honestly don't even do it in West End. But I was just telling her thank you publicly for helping us out. But I do agree that we need to see on every side of the city how we can improve vacant lots. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, and I just want to piggyback on the suggestion by my colleague to my right. The education manager in me is also asking for train the trainer, because we get so many requests at neighborhood meetings, and this is what I've even asked the neighborhood presidents in District 7 to tune in, or either come down today, you see, didn't recommend, but to tune in today so that we could have that understanding, because there's a lot of confusion, and you have definitely helped to eliminate some of that confusion for me personally. And but I would like either some type of even Cliff Notes or maybe a little something with nothing more than that one sheet of the process. It may be helpful to residents, because I can think of a lot of churches, that one right near me that has a lot that home was demolished on, and now it's growing. But to me, it would be a perfect opportunity for them to take that lot, and it looks like something that a church could get through the lot lease program. So thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. And I'll continue those conversations about what could be helpful. I think what would be nice is if I could do a workshop with all of you, and then give you materials that you can then give to those in your district to learn more about our programs. My team is always available to present with me. Our board chair is very interested in educating the public on what we do, as are the rest of my board members. So they're invested in Birmingham. They want to see us grow. And I think we're at a crossroads. We've said this at other meetings, at our board meeting, where we see where the land bank started. We understand where we are, and now we want to see where we're going to go. So we're going to be involved in some strategic planning sessions with our board to determine where do we want to be in 1, 3, or 5 years. This way, we'll be a lot more focused. You'll feel a lot more of our impact across the city, and we'll be able to see what we are doing while we're doing it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Again, we appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
At this time, councilors, I'd like to turn our attention to the next item we have under new business, and I'd like to call up, I think it's Mr. Mike Eddington, Deputy Director of Capital Projects, who will preside and present us these two agreements. Councilors, if you will allow us to entertain these two agreements. Otherwise, they would have come through the Utilities Committee yesterday, but with the urgency and the timing, we agreed to allow PEP to bring this before us through the Committee of the Whole. So good evening. Good afternoon, Mr. Eddington.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for bringing this item about to this committee. Like I said, it just got approved at Office of City Attorney, and we missed being able to get on the Utilities Committee. So in order to move this forward, the two agreements are with Jefferson County Environmental Services Department and the Birmingham Waterworks Board, and it is to relocate utilities to avoid conflicts with the construction of the 2nd Avenue project from 24th Street to 32nd Street. So we're installing some additional drainage, inlets and pipes, as well as some bioswales, doing some curb bump outs. And so those pipes for the storm drain are interfering with the pipes that are in the ground for the water lines. Some of the sewer manhole tops are going to have to be adjusted a little bit. So these agreements allow those utility providers to do that work as part of this project.
All right, thank you. Councilors, since these have both been presented to us as items that will require a vote, I'm going to ask then if we could, will we move it out of this committee? Then I'll just ask for a motion and a second for both items, and then we'll discuss it. Is that okay?
Okay,
Yes.
and they're contained.
Yes, thank you. So I can get a motion and a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. And so we thank you for that overview. We haven't voted on it yet. If we could then just get any discussion. And I do want to start, if you don't mind, just give us again exactly where this is. I know we have the address, but can you give us a physical idea of?
So it's 2nd Avenue South from 24th Street to 32nd Street. So that is on 2nd Avenue South, just 2 blocks before the expressway crosses over, and then out to 32nd Street, which is the street that goes in front of Sloss. So it goes past Pepper Place, and then it's also 29th Street between 2nd and 3rd.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dennington. Ms. Clark?
Yeah, Mike, I just wanted to note that on the ordinance, it says 4th Street, so on all of the documents we have before us. Instead of 24th, the limits. So you might want to fix that.
Yeah, it should say 24th to 32nd.
Okay,
on
so it should
2nd
say
Avenue South.
24th Street, but we'll get that.
I was getting pretty excited.
You maybe should make that.
$22,000.
So they'll be sending that ordinance to me to proofread and sign off on before it comes to
Thank you.
to council, so we'll make sure we check that.
All right, any other questions, counselors? We take away Ms. Abbott's euphoria right there, so.
It's not my district, but I was excited anyway. I mean,
All right, counselors,
what a deal, yeah.
we're ready for the vote. If we can have a vote then to entertain to move this on to the full
The vote
council.
is to send this to the full council?
Yes,
But we're gonna get some more information.
yes, ma'am, and they just need to come, this is by bringing it through committee so that it can move on to council. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Yes, go. Dr. O'Quinn, go ahead.
I want to say this wasn't one of the projects that we recently approved additional funding for, or was it?
It is.
It is, yes. So that capital improvements stuff that we recently did, this was one of the projects that was in it, yeah.
Well, that's good.
And those funds are to help with the matching funds. It's a grant project, 80/20 with the state. So those additional funds that we put to it is to do the city's match.
Right, yeah. So it was part of a really long list of projects that had just been on the books but hadn't moved forward because of funding gap.
Correct.
Yep. Thanks.
And now that we've done that, we can move forward with these agreements.
Thank you very much. All right, counselors, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any objections? Thank you very much. We'll
Thank
move
you.
both those items on to the council. Thank you, counselors. Now, under old business, and I don't know why we call this old business, because this is, well, maybe we'll call it old business because these are two entities that we've been working with before, maybe one old, one new, but we'll get started with it, okay? First, I'd like to bring up Ms. Angela Abdul-Rashid and J.W. Carpenter, and they're going to give us an overview of Prosper Birmingham. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Angela Abdur-Rashid, who is a much better presenter, is going to be seated because she has a boot.
I know.
So she is available for any questions from her seat, but for now I'm just going to do the presentation. So sorry you guys get the second choice today. So I appreciate y'all's time today. I'm going to try and get through this quickly so you have time for questions because I know you have other business, and I think there is a deck.
Yes,
there
there
a deck?
is. There goes Cody.
Big picture wise, Prosper launched a little over a year ago, and the purpose of Prosper is to grow our economy over the long run in a data-driven, inclusive way. Ultimately, we want to be a table where everyone can sit. And our board is committed to that long-term investment toward making sure that our economy is growing and growing inclusively. So if we can get to the next slide, or do I have a button?
No, he's got to do it.
Perfect. So I don't read the slides, but I will read this one. Prosper is a coalition of community, civic, and corporate leaders committed to creating a more vibrant and racially inclusive economy by providing a seat at the table where all voices are welcome. Core to every action by Prosper is whether the action is equitable and whether it will invest in Birmingham's Black community and women. I want to make a couple of comments here based on feedback I've received over the last year. So the first is people say, well, this isn't for me because I'm not Black and I'm not a woman. What I am saying is we want to work with everyone. We want to work with white people, Native Americans, the AAPI community, the LGBTQ community, the Latino community, but we specifically want to work with the Black community and women because we have spent the longest period of time in the city and county denying opportunities to Black people and women. And we know from the data and our lived history that if we don't call out that we're going to work with them, then we won't work with them. And so we want to point that out. That's really important. And first and foremost, this is a moral commitment from our board to make sure that every single person in this community, and specifically our Black community and women, have an opportunity to have a seat at the table, be heard, be part of the decision-making process, and have support. But the moral argument isn't just it. It's the first and foremost piece, but it's also a strategic argument. If we want to grow, we need the majority of our population to grow. And the majority of our population in the county are black people and women. If they are not growing, we are not growing. If we want opportunity to be distributed the same way that talent is, and talent is distributed equally, but opportunity hasn't, Prosper aims to do something about that. So a couple pieces of the origin story. About 2 or 3 years ago, there were a number of community leaders, including Mayor Woodfin, including Dr. Watts, including several corporate leaders like Mark Crosswhite, who were looking at our growth numbers, and our growth numbers, especially compared to other regions, and found we weren't growing very fast, and those other regions were. And they said, we really need to do something about that. And they spent some time working with local leaders in Brookings to figure out, well, what's really going on with the numbers? And what they found was pretty shocking. From 2008 to 2018, we were 52 of 53 in job growth for regions $1 million or more. If you're betting on who's making more money, bet on a white man with a high school degree over a black woman with a college degree. And when it comes to black-owned businesses relative to the black population, we have the largest gap in the country. So is pretty shocking data, but what they said was, in working with Brookings, they looked around the country at other cities, and those cities had organizations that were focused on economic growth, and we needed an organization that was focused on that long-term, data-driven economic growth, and that's why they launched Prosper. But the difference between our work and the work done elsewhere is, from the start, baked into our DNA is not just economic growth, it is about inclusive economic growth. And that is something that other regions right now are catching up to, and we are doing it from the start. This is our board. I won't belabor this slide except to say that what I heard two things when I got started. Is like, these folks will lend their name, but they won't necessarily, they're too busy, they won't be involved. It has been far from the case. These folks are involved and very supportive and continue to be committed, not just to Prosper's success, which is secondary to the long-term data-driven inclusive economic growth. And so that commitment to them is in their day-to-day jobs, but also on this board. So we'll skip to the next one. So we have our structure, we have three parts to our structure. The first is around job creation. What can we do to grow jobs in the industry and businesses we have? And how can we grow more businesses here that can create new jobs? The second piece is around job preparation. What we're finding right now is there are a lot of people doing a lot of really good work around job preparation, but we're not aligned. We're not all working together toward a common vision. And what we've seen over the last two plus years is we are no longer just about growing jobs. How do we fill the quality jobs we have? And then the third piece around job access. A lot of the reason people aren't working is not lack of skill or lack of will. It's lack of knowledge of the job opportunities. It's lack of childcare. It's a digital divide. It's lack of transportation, and it's lack of healthcare access. So what can we do as a community to convene and address these issues and take on big ideas to make it happen? You know, the next slide. We'll skip. So we play four primary roles at Prosper. The first is we are a funder. We have philanthropic contributions from our board and others that generally go into one pool that we use to fund initiatives, and I'll share about some of those initiatives later. The second is around convening and aligning. We have a program rich in the town, but we are in a lot of ways network and system poor. And so what can we do to align all of these efforts that are doing similar things toward a bigger common vision and common goals and common strategies so we can have a bigger impact? The third is around national resources. This is the third most generous city in the United States when it comes to philanthropy, but at the same time we are undercapitalized when it comes to federal funding and national investment. How do we get more of that here? And I can talk about a pretty big win later that we recently were a part of. And then the fourth is, what's our vision? What's our brand? What are our goals? What are our common strategies? And how do we align around that? It's not Prosper's job to determine that, but what can we do to convene and get people together to come up with that vision, to come up with those goals, to come up with those strategies so we can take big swings and support big ideas and so we can start getting big wins. So when we first launched last year, and it was a team of one when we launched, we've since added really good people: Angela Abdur-Rashid, our communications community engagement director, Dee Manyama, our initiatives director, and Aubrey Strange, who handles our fundraising. The board said, it's great to talk about the vision, it's great to talk about the alignment, we need to get runs on the board, and let's make sure we are supporting initiatives that are impactful. And the way we do not run programs, it's a team of 4 folks, we do not have the capacity to run programs. Think of us as civic venture capital. We invest philanthropically in initiatives that we think are swing for the fences and will have a big impact, but we don't run those organizations. We fund them, we support them, we offer them advice, we connect them, and we also track how they're doing. So I don't need to tell you about the Birmingham Promise. You all know about the Birmingham Promise. We are proud to partner with them. One of the best ways this community can get involved is to host Birmingham City School students and alums as interns. We had 2 this last year, and it was phenomenal. They did great work, and they brought joy to the office, and it is always good to be around young people because they know how things work that I don't. One other point about the Promise, I understand this. There's a perspective about the Promise that this is an education program because it involves high school kids, and there's an education component. This is about investment and economic mobility. The single best natural resource we have are our Birmingham City School students. It's a renewable resource, and they have all the talent in the world, and if we give them the opportunities, they will stay and do incredible things, and that is what the Promise is about, and we're really proud to partner with them. If you haven't met Samantha Williams, she's outstanding as the new leader of Promise. So as I said, biggest gap in the nation, population of our region, 28% identifies as black. Only 3% of businesses with more than 1 employee are black owned. This is it's a moral abomination, but it's also this huge strategic opportunity. So we are doing 2 things on this. The first was the Magic City Match. We partnered with Rev, we partnered with Ignite Alabama, we partnered with Urban Impact, and we put out $500,000 for black-owned businesses starting in the city of Birmingham who wanted to use that money specifically to help solidify themselves in a retail spot, but we were flexible around that. So like I said, Rev, Urban Impact, and Torrin at Ignite did a great job. We put out the application for 1 week, and we had 856 applications from black-owned businesses. There is a huge need, and we were able to take a lot of businesses through that process. We got down to 25, and we awarded 13 businesses of at least $25,000 or more, and now we're working with those businesses in terms of their plans and then tracking revenue growth, tracking job growth with those businesses, and our hope is to replicate that process down the road. The second piece, and we're working with LRY, Ignite Alabama, and Fourth Economy on this. We will unveil this at the 4th Avenue Jazz Festival, but it is our black-owned business ecosystem map. There is so much good work going on in this community, but a lot of the time the challenge is, well, who's doing what where? And that's not just true with black-owned businesses, it's true for a lot of things we do. So this map is meant to be a starting point so we can start having a front door. So whether you're a philanthropy trying to invest, whether you're a black-owned business trying to find a place to go, whether you're a service organization and you want to collaborate, where is all this information? Where's the front door? How do we work together? So we'll go to the next one. Brookings identified the place we could grow the most quality jobs in this community around healthcare and health tech specifically. That makes sense. We've got UAB, Encompass Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Protective Life. How do we leverage those resources to start punching Nashville in the nose and growing great businesses and growing great jobs? There are 3 elements to this. The first is our Health Tech Accelerator. This is legitimate equity investment. We have a venture fund separate from our philanthropic fund, and we're working with Generator to recruit 50 to 70 early stage health tech companies from all over the country to come here for 12 weeks. They get investment, they get connections, they get support. And the hope is if the founder and the idea is good, then they're going to grow their businesses here. Cohort 1 finished. 2 of the 5 businesses are going to stay here and build their business here, which is really exciting. And next week, we're going to have our new 5 businesses for Cohort 2 revealed. In addition, Generator, which runs this program along with Bronze Valley and accelerators all around the country, they are hosting their On-Ramp Health Tech Conference here in Birmingham next week, which brings in investors and companies from all over the country here to Birmingham, which is a huge win for us. And we've had a ton of great partners, and thanks to the state of Alabama for helping support our accelerator on that. The second is around community of health. So the number 1 reason people aren't working is lack of healthcare access. Sometimes it's for them, or sometimes it's for someone they're taking care of. We work with Acclinate, and we created a Be Included platform, which is a platform that's a one-stop shop for people to go to for what their healthcare needs are. And then the hope is that when they get their healthcare needs met, we are able to connect them to all of the jobs and all the job training programs that are out there. We also just finished a program called Path to Wellness. 15 individuals did a internship around community health workers. We partnered with Cooper Green, Live Health Smart Alabama, UAB, Acclinate, and now those folks have gotten trained. They've done good work in the community, and the goal is to get them into living wage jobs, and we're going to be able to grow that program relatively quickly over the next few years. And so those are the three main pieces. How do we handle the job access? How do we do job training like with the community health workers? And then how do we grow that next generation of businesses here in Birmingham, starting early and growing from the beginning so we can have the next Pack Health, so we can have the next therapy brands? These are the two, Kaya and Health OpX, who are from our Health Tech Accelerator cohort, who came here. They never had breathed on Birmingham before, and now their founders are growing their companies here. So business advisory services is around small businesses. So this is where the majority of our job growth and job sustainability is going to come from, small businesses. But the challenge is while there's a lot of stuff usually for founders and a lot of the bigger companies are supported in different ways, there are a lot of small businesses. They've got revenue somewhere between $250,000, $750,000, but there isn't a whole lot of support for them. They want to take the next stair step. So we partnered with the BBA and Interrise on this, and we had a cohort of 20 businesses that completed a couple of weeks ago, and they did 8 months of intense work to help develop their business plan, identify their strengths and their gaps, and we'll be monitoring their job growth and we'll be monitoring their revenue growth over the next couple of years to see how good this program really is and see how they're doing, and then we'll start recruiting for our next cohort later in Q3, early Q4. So do the next one. So here are just a few of the numbers that we've been tracking. So we are tracking a ton of different data right now. A lot of this data right now is input data because these initiatives are so new, but we are looking over the long run at a lot of different output data. So for example, like I said, that revenue growth and job growth among businesses, we'll be looking for, as Birmingham Promise is looking at degree completion and how many kids are in living wage jobs. There are a lot of different output data that we're looking at, and we're going to be looking at the big metrics as well. How are we closing the employment gap by race? How are we closing the income gap by race? How many jobs are we creating in this area? And how can we make sure that the data that we're tracking is not Prosper data, that we're looking at this as a community and we're narrowing down the metrics and goals we're looking at to not so many that we can't keep track, but enough where it's truly comprehensive. So, like I said, we've had a number of, the board charged us when we launched in June to get all of these different initiatives launched and out the door so we could show we were serious, and we did it. And now we're working through cohorts 2 of a lot of these different organizations initiatives as we finish up. And then we'll be looking ahead to the next few years at other big ideas that we can invest in. So, you probably know about the Good Jobs Challenge. I want to shout out Amelia Muller in the city of Birmingham. This was a huge win for us. We were one of 32 cities selected, a little less than $12 million coming to this community to grow our healthcare workforce. What I'm proudest of here is what a collaborative effort it was. The city of Birmingham, like I said, deserves a ton of credit. BBA was at the table, UAB was at the table, Jefferson County, we were at the table, Regional Planning Commission. What this shows is if we collaborate towards a big goal, we can do it. And I think this is the beginning of more things to come, and it shows that, you know, we can compete on the national level with cities and regions around the country if we put our best foot forward. Here's cohort 2. These are the companies that'll be coming. You'll be hearing more about this. This is cohort 2 of our Health Tech Accelerator, which was very, very recently selected. We're excited that one of the businesses this will be a Birmingham business. And the nice thing is we're getting applications, a ton of applications for really 5 to 7 slots from all over the country. So we know that this is these are really, really competitive businesses, and we're really excited. We're also excited about the diversity of our group. Every one of our businesses in the first group identified as a person of color, and there's a lot, like, to me, the way you know you have quality is if you have diversity, because if you don't have diversity, I worry you're leaving a bunch of people out, and we haven't done that. Go to the next one. So ultimately, we want you to be engaged. So thanks to Councilwoman Alexander, Councilwoman Clark, you were able to come to one of our Let's Connect events. Angela does lots of Let's Connect events for lots of different groups. We want to engage them in Prosper. We want to identify their strengths, identify points of collaboration, identify opportunities. Please share our work with your district. That is the best thing that we can ask you to do. And it's easy to find us on social media, but we are also happy to come to events in your district. We're happy to share opportunities in your district. There's going to be more and more that we are funding or our partners are doing. We want to make sure that your folks are getting that, and you have a much better idea about how to communicate with your district than we ever will. You will also surface ideas and surface people and surface organizations within your district that you say, hey, these are folks that fit right into Prosper's mission. We are easy to find and we love to meet. So we are happy to come to them. We're happy to welcome them to our office. We're happy to meet in a third-party location. But we realize that as Prosper launches, we're only in year 2, really, that the vast majority of people still haven't heard of us, that the vast majority of people are still figuring out how to engage with us, and we want to make sure that we are reaching them and getting into the community, and we welcome your advice, your feedback, and your questions on that. And here we go. There are emails, but social media is probably the best way to figure out what's going on. A lot of the time I find out about stuff on social media, which is terrific. Angela does a remarkable job in person and in the social media world. We are debating getting a TikTok. I don't really know what that is, but we're thinking about it. So I'm happy to take any questions or any feedback that you have about what we're doing at Prosper.
Well, I do want to thank you for bringing this information to us. As you said, I know we do get questions about what is Prosper? What are they doing? Mm-hmm. How does it affect the neighborhoods in each of our districts? So I appreciate the information you brought. I'm going to open it up and allow counselors to ask any questions. We will be providing you with a copy of the presentation. I apologize that we didn't have that copy for you. I've sent it to you by email, but I'm not good with Google Docs, so we'll get that out to you, okay? All right. I just sent it to you while we've been on the dais, so you didn't have it before. Councilor Clark.
Thank you for coming to, keep Prosper in the forefront of our minds, because and to be patient with yourself. You just had a 1-year anniversary. You're still a startup, so these are it's new, and so giving yourself time to be better known and working out how you're going to really impact on this issue. I've worked in this issue a long time, and we had a little saying called "Don't be afraid to call the baby ugly," because minority supplier development is just hard. But I think Prosper gives me a lot of hope because it's the business community it's the corporate sector driving instead of the small business community saying, hey, we want to do business with you. It's coming the other way now, I think, or kind of both sides being coalescing through Prosper. And it sounds like you have more of a collective impact model, because you want to take everybody who's doing something in the issue and get them all working together and rowing together to have a bigger impact. So it helps me to understand that, because it's kind of like, okay, so now what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
So that's very helpful. And I was happy to see that supplier development is a part of it, because I do think that helping people to contract with these corporate supply chains and integrate and be a part of those corporate supply chains is going to be important. But it does take, you got to be able to add a lot of value, and that's oftentimes where the rub is. There was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember what it was. So anyway.
Thank you. I think that's good feedback, and we're committed over the long run. Now you remembered it.
I do think I remembered it. I wanted to ask you, does Department of Commerce, the city of Birmingham, when I was here, had minority business development, the Minority Business Development Agency we were a grantee, and we did these programs to help minority firms connect with corporate supply chain opportunities. And it was kind of a matching, matching buyers and sellers, if you will. And so we were paid for disseminating that information out of the Office of Economic Development. But then they went to they wanted to award it to a statewide group. But I don't know that, there's history in this community with the MBDA, with the Minority Business Development Agency, if that's a potential funding source for you.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that. Department of Commerce supports us through our Health Tech Accelerator and the Growing Alabama credit, which is helpful. I'll have to look into that. I mean, my first instinct is just to talk to Victor Brown because he remembers everything.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, but I think that's something that we'll definitely look into.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Clark. Any other questions? Councilor Quinn?
Yes. Yeah, so one of the things that's top of mind for me at the moment is with all of these startups and even existing businesses, their capacity for growth is significantly limited by the lack of people seeking employment. And the city of Birmingham is no exception either. So I wonder, you're not an economist, obviously. But anyway, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, or if any portion of Prosper's, mission helps to perhaps address that question, or is it completely out of your depth? Feedback?
So I would say on the intellectual question, I am personally out of my depth. I would say that I do a lot of reading. So we have one of the lowest labor force participation rates in the country in Alabama. And so people talk about unemployment numbers, that's fine, but labor force participation, I think, is where it's at and where we need to be looking. I spend a lot of time consuming information on this locally and nationally, and I think it still remains a little bit of a mystery for folks. I think there was a theory for a while that, well, the government payments during COVID are so great that folks were receiving them, and then once we cut those, they'll go back to work. Well, they cut them and people didn't go back to work, and they said, well, folks have saved up money, and then when they're done saving, they'll go back to work. Well, that didn't happen either. So I would say the place where we're leaning in the most on this, not exclusively, but the most, is around healthcare. So first and foremost, so as you're looking at your job preparation, what you want to do is you want to make it employer driven and sensitive to your underemployed and unemployed and the barriers they're facing. So for employer driven, how do you figure out what are their specific needs now and what are their specific needs in the long run, and get it down to job code, and then figure out, okay, what does a person need to do this? So right now for nursing, for example, which is the biggest issue here and everywhere, I could start training nurses now and I'll be done 5 years after the earth crashes into the sun, right? We have so much need. And so that's a different path. You've got to engage your 2 and 4 years on that. There are a number of different jobs that do not require a 2 or 4 year degree. And the question then is, are they living wage jobs? Are they really competitive? But first and foremost, you've got to know what the job codes are and what the real needs are for your major employers. Second is, who are all the providers? Clearly it's a 2 and 4 year, but there are a number of different programs, whether it's Innovate Birmingham or other places out there that are doing training. How do you map that and figure out who's doing what and map it towards a goal? And then the third piece is, how then are you communicating to the unemployed and underemployed? One of the best tools I've got when somebody comes to me and says, I really want to get into the nonprofit industry. Well, one of the best tools I've got is the Alabama Association of Nonprofits got a big job board. And every nonprofit job goes on there. It's not just the entry jobs, all the jobs. And so I say, go to that board and tell me what you're interested in. Let's have a conversation. Private employment doesn't work like that. And most of the big ones online, you go to them and it's hard to sort them out. So it's a little bit trickier, but we're working with those employers and we're working to identify and map that so we can start communicating. But even when you're communicating, then how are you addressing the needs? So sometimes it's transportation, healthcare, like with those access needs that individuals and folks have. So we are working on that. It's a long tail on that kite. I just want to say UAB has been terrific. A lot of our healthcare providers, Encompass Health, have been terrific. Blue Cross Blue Shield, they really want to help fix this. And the BBA's been looking at it. Lots of folks have been looking at it, but it just takes some time to do. But I will say there is huge urgency around this. I don't know one organization in this city, especially the big ones, that aren't thinking about this, and I think they're now collaborating toward it. So it fits in our wheelhouse, but I'd be lying to you if I said I have an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Abbott, I thought you motioned. Did you have a question?
No, I think I'll probably get what I needed from the document.
Getting the slides. All right, thank you. Council Pro Tem. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
We appreciate you coming, and we hope you get out of that boot soon, but thank you for the information.
I'd like to point out I did not make her come. She chose to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, councilors, our final item under old business is we have a presentation this afternoon by Miss Amanda Story, and I see she has T. Marie with her, and they'll be talking about the Jones Valley Teaching Farm expansion. Thank you so much. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are here to primarily talk about our expansion of Jones Valley Teaching Farm's intern and apprenticeship program. Really why we wanted to focus on this is most folks, and my partner here, T. Marie King, who is leading this program as our director. Most people know Jones Valley Teaching Farm because we've had a 20-year history with the city of Birmingham, specifically on the downtown farm where most folks know us. But in 2012, that all changed when we began to co-create our pre-K through 12th grade education model with Birmingham City Schools. We started that in 2012. Since then, we are well known for our Good School Food program, both locally but especially nationally. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit before we end this presentation. In 2015, we moved into workforce development, quite frankly. And so we have been at this since 2015, have learned a lot of lessons and used that time as a really important lesson learned for ourselves, but also to be prepared to come to you when we are ready to expand. And that's why we're here today. So we're going to focus really mainly on that internship and apprenticeship program. So our mission and vision is food is our foundation, people grow here. Jones Valley Teaching Farm uses food as a foundation, and that's really important to us. And so we're not your normal workforce development program on purpose, right? Because we believe that by using food as a foundation, we're creating food resilient communities by instilling the skills in young people of knowing how to grow your own food, but also to share that with your community is really creating a different community for us all to live in and share with one another, right? So that is an incredibly important piece of our work. And we do that so that young people can lead, create, and grow a healthy future for themselves and their community. And that's really the baseline of what we do from a mission standpoint. Our vision is, and we see it every day, is we envision communities inspired by food and transformed by youth. And so if you look at the next slide, our goal for this meeting, and specifically for an ask we're making to each of you, is to really look at the economic mobility for Birmingham City youth and young adults, and that is through our internship and apprenticeship model. Next slide. So in 2015, when we moved onto the Woodlawn High School campus, that was when we started to ask larger questions, that not only are we creating this foundation within our educational outreach and programs of instilling food-based education opportunities aligned with all of the state standards that teachers need to follow, we also knew that a big piece of, if we're going to focus on the deficit, which we do, food insecurity and all of the words that we use today, which we want to challenge ourselves to use food resiliency instead, because we want to create food resilient communities. But we know that workforce jobs are very important to young people. We have to make a living, right? All of us do. And so the internship opportunity appeared to us as an opportunity based from the response we were getting from young people at Woodlawn High School. We launched that, and it has been incredibly successful since then, and you'll see the stats in a minute. When they started graduating, we immediately saw that it is a nonprofit's responsibility, I think, that we also don't end a program right when the 12th grade ends, that we need to find the ways that we can continue to partner with young people and young adults to make sure that that transition is utilized. And so the way that we did that was created a full-time employment opportunity so that interns that graduated from that original program would then be able to apply for a full-time position at Jones Valley Teaching Farm as an apprentice. So our intern and apprenticeship model consists of the high school internship and the Jones Valley Teaching Farm larger apprenticeship program, and together they continue the education of Birmingham City School students. It's only open to Birmingham City School graduates. I just want to add that. Through on-the-job training, which they get a lot of, and in the summer, I would say it's a little bit harder. Workforce development, enrichment experiences, support services, and pathways to full-time employment and or post-secondary education opportunities. Next slide. We also believe that we are advancing the city of Birmingham's priorities, and we do that in a couple of ways through this program. Obviously, advancing employment and educational opportunities for Birmingham youth, but also increasing the number of residents with access to affordable produce. By making food the foundational piece of all of this, we believe we're doing two things. We're creating young people who have jobs or have jobs that are meaningful jobs, which they have asked for, but also young people who have said, we also want to create jobs that create change. And we want to do something for our community and jobs that contribute to that. Next slide. So just to tell you about our high school internship, which we've already talked a little bit about where we are going and what we want to do. So beginning in August 2022, we want to expand our internship beyond Woodlawn. We've been able to pilot this with Woodlawn for the past 7 years. We feel like we're in a great position, know what's needed to now be able to recruit applicants from all high schools across Birmingham. And that is a new thing for Jones Valley, but it's an exciting thing, and we're excited to be at this point. And between the years of 2022 and 2024, we also plan to double the number of interns from 5 to 10. Next slide. At our apprenticeship level, remember this is for graduates of this internship. They'll move into full-time positions at Jones Valley. This is a full-time salary, full benefits, and 401k opportunities for matching. So they enter into a full-time position with us. In August 2022, these graduates, we want to be able to recruit graduates from all Birmingham City schools. Right now, we've been recruiting directly from Woodlawn because that's where our internship program was. But now we want to be able to, as we expand the internship at the high school level, recruit also graduates from different high schools as well. We'd also like to increase the number of full-time apprentices from 5 to 7. If T. Marie had her way, it would have a different number there, but we're going small and mighty. She's ready, though. And in August 2022, we also are creating a Youth Pathways and Experience Manager. He's actually already moving into that position. Mohammed Jallo, who started at Woodlawn High School in the 9th grade, started the petition to actually form the farm at Woodlawn High School, went on to be a manager of the farm, and has been with us now for almost 8 years or 7 years. So now he's moving into this position. A perfect person, in our opinion, to help lead this next stage of our expansion. Next slide. So from program objectives and metrics, this repeats a lot of what I've already said, so I'm not going to go through this completely, but just to know that we're looking to expand that high school internship to all Birmingham City School students and graduates. We want to increase that number, as you can see. All of our high school interns receive $15 an hour while also receiving course credit from the Business and Finance Academy there at Woodlawn. We're hoping to work with other co-op programs across the academies to make that work for other interns as well. We also want to expand access to the apprenticeship, as I said, and recruit from other high schools as well. We believe that 90% of our high school interns and apprentices, because we've seen this work well, will show increased skills-based knowledge, and also transition 50% of those apprentices graduates to STEM, agriculture, environmental, or culinary-related careers or post-secondary education. We're starting to see that as well. Next slide is just a really, it shows the path, even though what I'm saying seems complex sometimes, but when you can see it, it might help a little bit. Next slide, please. So how do we know that this works, and why are we coming to you today? Because we have employed 45 Woodlawn High School interns since 2015. We've also leveraged over $650,000 of corporate and foundation support to make that happen and to pilot it. And that's why we're here today. We've also employed 16 apprentices. Those are those full-time jobs right after that internship. So that has happened as well. And we have actually hired 5 of those apprentices at Jones Valley Valley Teaching Farm to be farmers, assistant farmers, instructors, and now we actually have added to our finance and administration department as well with an apprentice. Next slide, please. And again, obviously, we're increasing, we're expanding, but we also, and this is all T. Marie King, establishing accreditation and credentialing for training from state and universities. So she can tell you a little bit about what that's going to look like, but everything from food handlers training to tractor training to OSHA training, we're able to credential and offer those trainings to young people when they're going through our program, so that when they leave our program, they have a stack of things that they can show future employers in those areas that they're most interested in. We also are creating employer and post-secondary education partners and scholarships, which is exciting. We're increasing professional development and support services, and we're partnering with HBCUs, research entities, and industry partners to increase immersive training opportunities. So that's all taking shape. T. Marie has been driving that, and she told me I was reading these slides, but I'm going to turn it over to you in a second. So our request, and I'm going to move on to the next two. Yes, in the next slide, please. So our request to you and to each counselor is to provide collective support to expand Jones Valley Teaching Farm's intern apprenticeship model across all high schools and recruit from all high schools and Birmingham City schools. We are asking an investment of a 2-year minimum investment of $40,000 from ARPA funds in 2022 and 2023 to ensure the growth and future financial sustainability of this model. We believe that we've been working so hard at this over the last 7 to 8 years to really get to the place for expansion, so that we knew that what we needed to have in place in order to do that. And we believe the time is right, and the time is now for us to move in that direction. Next slide. And so we think an investment in Jones Valley Teaching Farm's intern apprenticeship model is a direct investment in the future of Birmingham's youth and young adults. I will not stand here and say that we are an answer to hundreds and hundreds of jobs in Birmingham. We're not a manufacturing plant. We are not that kind of workforce development. But I believe that we are the kind of workforce development that our community needs, and what young people say that they want, and ways that we can invest in young people in different ways. And so our jobs in a state that has such we have not only lots of trauma associated with agriculture and what that means to this state, but also looking at the broad range of jobs that are available. We have a lot of work to do in this department, and we believe that working with Birmingham City Schools youth and in Birmingham in general, that this is a great place for us to start and put a flag in the ground and say that we are a national, and we truly are a national example for food-based educational model with a public school system. And we also have an apprenticeship model that is we have requests almost daily. We were on the phone with Detroit today. We've had Gulf Shores visit. We've had Columbus, Georgia. We've had 5 schools in Atlanta reach out. This is all in just this 1 quarter of asking not just about the work that we do with Birmingham City Schools. Yes, that's incredibly important to them, but this trajectory that we're creating for young people to be part of this larger movement, part of these larger employment opportunities. So by providing paid opportunities for on-the-job training and pathways to careers and or post-secondary education, because we don't just limit it, as T. Marie always says, we give 3 pathways. Yes, to direct career, if that is the option that a young person wants to take. Yes, post-secondary opportunities as well. Within Jones Valley Teaching Farm, we have done the exact same pathway. So how do we leverage what young people really can find their talents and curiosity for, and how do we leverage that as an organization? So over the past 20 years, Jones Valley has proven its ability to sustainably create and grow programs. And as you can see, the Center for Food Education, which y'all have all been to, is a testament to what it means for this community, but specifically for the city of Birmingham, and where we have to grow, in my opinion. And if the Center for Food Education can be a hub for youth employment and youth development in the ways that we see that's right in front of us, we hope that you can see that too. We're excited to just kind of launch in and get started. So data collection and evaluation over the 2-year growth period will be used to secure national, private, federal, and state funding needed for long-term program long-term financial sustainability. We've received a lot of requests nationally also around funding, and so what we would love this to be is a seed for us to see what that expansion looks like, to build on that, and then to leverage those national funds to help pilot it even further, or to grow it to whatever T. Marie says we're going to grow it to. So that is my part of the presentation. Do you want to add anything? She thinks I did good. Okay, well then there you have it. So we're welcome to take any questions. In your packets you have the full presentation as well as the actual request.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate you for bringing us this information. I'm very excited about your plans for expansion. I was first introduced to the Jones Valley Teaching Farm when I first became a member of the Board of Education. So I remember what you all had started and the work you were doing there at Woodlawn. I think I remember the young man. He was in the 9th grade at the time.
I'm sure you
when,
do, yeah.
When the program started. So again, a very good opportunity. I'm going to have a question about what you said about ARPA, but do any counselors have any questions? Yes, go ahead, Dr. Quinn.
Okay. So is Jones Valley Teaching Farm receiving any federal support at the moment?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So like
USDA funding. Yes, it's
USDA.
funding our fellowship program, which is a 3-year opportunity to create more urban growers for the entire city of Birmingham through our community gardens.
Awesome. What does that look like? I mean,
The fellowship program?
no, the support. I mean, is it financial support? Is it?
Absolutely, yes. It's mainly financial support. Obviously, it comes with a big network. I mean, we've been recipient of USDA funding for quite some time, so it comes with a network of support as well. Were you gonna? Yep. And yeah.
Okay. Next question is, so food education, back many years ago, whenever I was, in middle and high school, it looked like 4-H and Future Farmers of America, which, I don't even know if those two organizations operate in, metro areas, but how would you say Jones Valley Teaching Farm, differs? The demographics
Sure.
are completely different. That's a given. But how would you say otherwise that Jones Valley Teaching Farm, differs from those programs?
Sure. So the way that we differ specifically is, and I will just say, we are partners with the Alabama Cooperative Extension. So 4-H Club is a piece of that. They also have 4-H clubs within Birmingham City Schools, and we work collaboratively with them, as well as the support that the extension gives us on a regular basis. We're asking larger questions about FFA and wondering why we don't have that in Birmingham City Schools, so I think it's worth asking, and that's where I think Jones Valley can come in, is to ask these larger questions from a system standpoint. But the way that we differ is because we actually create curriculum that aligns with all the state standards. It's not an after-school program. We have instructors that work directly with teachers and principals within the school system that align what we teach on the school sites, but also at the Center for Food Education. It all aligns with those standards. And so we do math, science, social studies. We have the opportunity to really work, even with art. We're able to do art projects and really customize. And what I'm most proud of is our instructors really keep Birmingham center of the storytelling, the foodways, all the ways that we can bring that element in, the history of Birmingham. So we really customize it in a very unique way, and that's what a lot of folks actually come to us for. Like, how did you create this immersion? Because we almost are like an extension of the Birmingham City school system. We're treated that way within the schools themselves, and our camps kind of take on that life as well. So it's kind of amped up a little bit, I would say, but that's what we do. We create also the farmers and the staff that keeps the maintenance for the sites that we actually maintain as well.
Nice. Okay. One last question.
Yeah.
So, is water conservation and renewable power generation part of your curriculum?
Well, We are getting there. So all of the sites that water definitely is. So all of the sites that we operate have, besides the downtown farm, which was a strategic decision, have ponds. Our Woodlawn High School, I heard bioswale earlier. We have a bioswale at Woodlawn High School. So we use those opportunities to really talk about water and water conservation. But T. Marie has connected us with all of our water conservation friends. And so we've been able to do field trips and really partner. And that's really where we want to come in as well with the environmental partners that we have with Ruffner, Red Mountain, Cahaba River, like all of our, Black Warrior Riverkeeper. We're able to partner with other organizations doing this education, but how do we work together to make that happen? And so it's all part of the larger kind of experience that young people get to have with Jones Valley.
Nice. And on the renewable power generation?
So we have solar panels at our Woodlawn High School farm, and that was a big undertaking, I will say. We also have curriculum where young people build their own solar kitchens and they make pizzas out of their solar models, and so we've actually included that in curriculum as well, so we try to hit on that as well.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, it would be a dream for me at least if people knew how to grow their own food, capture their own water and generate their own electricity, then they can be completely, self-sustainable. So, perhaps we'll keep nurturing Jones Valley Teaching Farm along until you guys get there.
We're reaching lots of kiddos, so.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other, Councilor Clark?
I just wanted to get some clarity on the funding request. It says 2-year minimum investment of $40,000 in 22 and 23, so that's $80,000.
Yes.
And is that per city councilor or collectively?
Per city councilor, please.
That's what I thought.
And you are welcome to give more than the minimum that is listed there. I'm just pointing that out to you.
So another question is, in marketing to the other high schools, expanding to them, it's only 6 other ones, but how will you do that?
Well, I think one of the things that the apprentices talked about was it needed to be things that attracted them. So they will be very much a part of creating what that marketing strategy will be, but also connecting with the counselors, the principal. If the school is not bought in, then it's hard to really, get that support to make it actually grow. But, I think JW mentioned TikTok, so the kids are like, hey, I need a video that I can share on TikTok easily. That is what will attract my friends. So I'm thinking of it as a dual, like there'll be an administrative way that we'll go and market, but then also a way to directly identify students on their own. But then we also have students that are seeking us out themselves. I had a student yesterday from Huffman who was interested in farming, who had their teacher reach out to us to see if there were opportunities. So I think the more it's becoming widely known to that generation, they're seeking us out.
Well, do you have any goals? I know the numbers are not that big as it relates to high schools, like say with a goal of 10 and a traditional base at Woodlawn. Would you have a goal of 1 per other high school or something in the first year? I mean, it wouldn't take, a whole lot. But if you got, say, JO has a horticulture program, but if you got 5 from JO, then that doesn't serve the other high schools. So I'm just saying, have you thought about, like a target, a goal? What would be your desired recruitment goal per high school in the first year?
She won't let me go for my goal.
I know.
I would love to have 25, 30 kids working, and that number of increasing that number is not necessarily from Woodlawn. That's just across the board. And I think as we, with our partnership with Birmingham Promise, as we see more students that are interested, then we'll just increase that number as we go. But as for kind of our target as we scale it, that was kind of the one that we settled on.
I'm not sure I understand the answer. So, I mean, the number is the number across all high schools, but do you have a per school goal?
Not necessarily a per school goal at this moment. That doesn't mean that one won't develop as we're recruiting.
Mm-hmm. But you have to essentially make relationships in all those other high schools?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just checking. And then sustainability after 2024, is this just because, we're time limited in this funding support? So is this, how do you plan to sustain this or grow this number after 2024?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we're starting a little bit smaller. I believe that based on what we're seeing from a national perspective and the interest that we're seeing across the board, that we can leverage more funding. What we've needed is to have a more concerted kind of teamwork effort with the city of Birmingham, quite frankly, because that only just increases our ability as the city. So I would say Bloomberg is a great example of that. Our apprentices worked directly with the mayor's office on that application that was all around youth employment that we put forward. That was us working directly with the city to ask for larger funding. We got really close. So I think watching that process gave me hope that when we go in this together, it's not just Jones Valley Teaching Farm, and it looks, and our funders will ask us, well, does the city have any support in this as well? If we're just employing, Birmingham City Schools students, they ask the same thing about Birmingham City Schools as well. So we're building that now, and this is part of this expansion. I think that we can leverage some really impactful funding together as a team, as opposed to us just going at it alone. So that's what we hope the next 2 years we're doing together.
Madam President.
Yes.
Just for clarification, with ARPA funding, if you have to obligate it by December 31st, 2024, it has to be spent by December 31st, 2026.
Okay. Thank you. That was kind of going to be my question, like what's the timing in that? So thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions, counselors? Well, again, we thank you very much for this presentation. Again, we're very excited about the expansion, and thank you both. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Counselors, at this time, I'll entertain for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.